My name is Clara Jensen, and I'm 32 years old. Imagine this. You're sitting at your parents' dining table, surrounded by the laughter of your siblings, nieces, and nephews. There's the smell of roasted turkey, the soft hum of Christmas carols, and for a moment, you actually feel like you belong. But then your mother stands up with a proud smile, holds up the new family portrait, and your heart stops. Because you're not in it, not cropped out, not blurred, just gone. Like you never existed. Everyone's faces beam at the camera. Mom, Dad, my sister Ava with her perfect little family, my brother Ben holding his twins. But where I should have been, on the far left next to Mom, there's just a blank wall. And when I whispered, "Where am I?" Mom didn't even flinch. She just said, "Oh, honey, we thought it would look more balanced without you." Everyone went quiet. Ben stared down at his plate. Ava sipped her wine like nothing happened. And I laughed. That nervous, shaky kind of laugh you do when your brain refuses to accept reality. But inside, I felt something crack. If you want to see how this story unfolds, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel for more unbelievable family drama stories. Now, let me tell you how my family erased me, and how I became the only one left in the will. That night, I barely made it to my car before the tears came. I sat in the driveway, watching the house glow with Christmas lights, and all I could think was, how did it come to this? See, I wasn't always the outcast. Growing up, I was the peacemaker, the one who kept everyone together. Ava was the golden child, valedictorian, married her high school sweetheart, lives in a perfect suburban house. Ben was the funny one, always in trouble but somehow still adored. And me? I was the middle one, the quiet one, the one who listened, helped, and stayed behind to clean up after everyone. When Dad got sick 5 years ago, I was the one who took time off work to care for him. While Ava and Ben couldn't make it because of kids or business trips, I was there, every doctor's appointment, every sleepless night. And when he passed, I was the one who held Mom's hand while she cried herself to sleep. But somewhere along the way, I became invisible. After Dad's funeral, Mom started spending more time with Ava. They'd go shopping together, post photos on Facebook, matching dresses, Sunday brunches. Ben helped her with errands, fixed the roof, played the dutiful son. And I was the one she called when the dishwasher broke or when she needed her bills organized. So, when I saw that family portrait without me, it wasn't just a photo. It was proof that I'd been erased. A week later, I decided I wouldn't let it go. I called Mom and asked if we could talk, just the two of us. She hesitated, then agreed to meet at her house. When I arrived, she was sitting on the couch flipping through a glossy photo album, the same one she'd shown off at Christmas. "Mom," I said softly, "can I ask, why did you take me out of the picture?" She looked up, her face blank. "Oh, Clara, don't be so dramatic. It's just a photo." "Then why didn't you include me?" She sighed. "Because, sweetheart, you never smile in pictures. You always look unhappy. And honestly, it was bringing down the mood." Her words stung more than she could ever know. Because the reason I never smiled was her. It was this. "Mom," I whispered, voice shaking, "do you even realize how much I do for you?" She frowned. "You're being ungrateful. I didn't raise you to guilt trip your family." That's when I realized I could never win. I stood up to leave, and as I turned, I saw it, an envelope sticking out of her desk drawer. It had my dad's handwriting on it. Before I could stop myself, I pulled it out. It said, "To my family, my final wishes." Mom froze. "Clara, that's private," but I was already opening it. Inside was a single page. Dad had written his will by hand before he passed, and at the bottom, it said something that made Mom's face drain of color. "Everything I own, the house, savings, and assets, shall go to my daughter, Clara Jensen, for her selflessness, loyalty, and care. I stared at her, my heart pounding. Did you know about this? She stammered. He never told me he changed it. I folded the paper, slipped it into my purse, and looked her dead in the eye. Well, Mom, I guess now I know why you wanted me out of the picture. That night, I didn't sleep, because for the first time in my life I had the upper hand. But I also knew my family would never accept it. And I was right. When the lawyers got involved, everything exploded. When I woke up the next morning, I almost convinced myself it had all been a dream. The photo, the letter, my mother's cold stare. But the will was still there, folded neatly on my nightstand. My father's handwriting stared back at me like a ghost, whispering, "Don't let them take it from you." My hands trembled as I reread his words. Everything I own shall go to my daughter, Clara Jensen, for her selflessness, loyalty, and care. It didn't feel real. For years, I had been invisible. And now, suddenly, I was the one holding all the power. 2 days later, the lawyer called. Apparently, my mother had already contacted him, claiming the handwritten will wasn't valid. She says it's not the final version, the lawyer told me over the phone. But Mr. Jensen signed and dated it. It's legal, Clara. I could hear the exhaustion in his voice, like he already knew this was going to get ugly. And he was right. That Sunday, my siblings showed up at my apartment. Ava came first, her lips pressed in a tight line, her posture as stiff as her tone. Ben followed behind, pacing, rubbing the back of his neck like he was trying to stay calm. Mom told us everything, Ava said, crossing her arms. About the will. I stayed quiet. Ben stepped forward. Clara, you know that's not fair. Dad didn't mean to leave us with nothing. You probably guilted him into it. My stomach twisted. I guilted him? I said, incredulous. Ben, I was the one who took care of him when he was dying. Where were you? Ava's eyes flashed. Don't start. You always act like you're the victim. Maybe Dad was just confused. He wasn't thinking clearly. Her words hit me like ice water, because deep down, I knew she was trying to plant doubt, to twist my father's final act of love into something selfish. I reached for the will on my kitchen table and held it up. He signed this. He knew what he was doing. Ava snatched the paper from my hands. We'll see what the court thinks. And just like that, my brother and sister walked out, leaving the door wide open behind them. For the next few weeks, my phone blew up with messages from my family. Mom sent guilt trips disguised as concern. Clara, do you really think your father wanted to divide the family like this? You don't even need the money. Your siblings have families. Ben sent threats. We're going to contest it. You'll regret this. And Ava, well, she was the quiet one now, which scared me more than anything. Because Ava didn't get quiet unless she was planning something. One morning, I got a call from my dad's lawyer again. There's been a development, he said grimly. Your mother's filed an official objection, claims your father was mentally unfit when he wrote it. I laughed, a sharp, bitter laugh that surprised even me. Of course she did, he sighed. It'll go to probate. I'll represent you, but you should be prepared for a fight. A fight. That's all my family had ever been, a quiet, unspoken war. A week later, I had to attend the first hearing. The courthouse smelled like paper and old wood, and my stomach churned as I walked in and saw them all. Mom in her pearls, Ava in a tailored blazer, Ben looking smug in a cheap suit. When the judge asked for statements, Mom stood up first. My husband wasn't himself at the end, she said softly, her voice cracking just enough to sound sincere. He was confused, tired. He didn't know what he was signing. I wanted to scream, but I kept my composure and waited my turn. When it came, I stood and said quietly, my father wasn't confused. He was careful. He told me, more than once, that he wanted to thank me for everything I did. This is his voice on paper. Don't let them erase that, too. For a moment, there was silence. Even the judge looked uncomfortable. Then Ava stood, and I'll never forget what she said. Your Honor, she began smoothly. Clara's been struggling, emotionally. Ever since Dad died, she's been isolated, obsessive, even paranoid. I think she believes things that aren't true. My heart dropped. She wasn't just attacking my case. She was attacking my sanity. After the hearing, I found Mom and Ava whispering in the hallway. When they saw me, Ava smirked. This isn't over, Clara, she said. You can't win against all of us. I stepped closer, my voice steady. Funny, that's exactly what Dad said to me before he died, that I could survive anything if I stopped letting people walk over me. She didn't respond, but the look on her face told me everything. I had finally scared her. That night, I went home and found something waiting in my mailbox, a small brown envelope with no return address. Inside was a single Polaroid photo, the family portrait, the one without me. But someone had written something on the back, in my father's handwriting. They can erase you from a picture, Clara, but not from what's rightfully yours. I dropped the photo and burst into tears. For the first time in months, they weren't tears of pain, but of strength. Because I finally realized my father saw everything, and he'd given me exactly what I needed. Not money, not a house, but the truth. And that truth was about to tear my family apart. After that night, I couldn't get the Polaroid out of my mind. I kept turning it over and over in my hands. My father's handwriting scrawled across the back like a message from beyond the grave. They can erase you from a picture, Clara, but not from what's rightfully yours. His words felt heavy, not just sentimental, but purposeful. It was like he was telling me there was more to the story, and I was determined to find out what. The next morning, I went to my parents' house, or Mom's house now, as she called it. She didn't expect me. I parked 2 streets over and walked the rest of the way, my heart pounding in my chest. The house looked the same as ever. Perfectly trimmed hedges, wind chimes on the porch, the faint smell of lavender from Mom's garden. It felt eerie being there without Dad. He used to sit in that very rocking chair, waving whenever I pulled up the driveway. Now, the chair was empty. I slipped around the back and entered through the basement door, the same one I used to sneak through when I was a teenager. The air smelled like dust and old paper. Boxes were stacked everywhere, labeled with my father's neat handwriting. And that's when I saw it. One box pushed behind an old tool chest, labeled Private, for Clara. My throat tightened. I pulled it out and opened it carefully. Inside were stacks of papers, old notebooks, and a small black leather journal. On the first page, written in the same steady hand as the will, were the words, "If you're reading this, Clara, then the truth has found you." I sat down on the cold basement floor and started to read. The entries went back years. My father had been keeping notes about my siblings, about Mom, about everything. He wrote about how Ava pressured him to sign the house over before he died, how Ben had borrowed money and never paid it back. And worst of all, how Mom had been trying to convince him that I was unstable so she could gain power of attorney. "They want what I've built, Clara," he wrote. "But only you understand what family truly means. I'm leaving this record in case they try to twist things after I'm gone." My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the book. All this time I thought I was crazy, paranoid. But Dad knew. He saw through them. At the very bottom of the box, there was a small envelope marked, "To be opened after my death. Attorney's copy." My pulse quickened. I opened it. Inside was a sealed USB drive and a letter addressed to his lawyer. The letter read, "Attached is an audio recording of my final statement, confirming my wishes and state of mind. It should serve as evidence should anyone dispute my will." I couldn't breathe. He had proof. I drove straight to the lawyer's office. He was surprised to see me, but when I handed him the letter and USB, his eyes widened. We listened together in silence. My father's voice filled the room, weak but steady. I, Thomas Jensen, declare that I am of sound mind. I know exactly what I'm doing. I leave my estate to my daughter, Clara, because she has been my anchor in every storm. My wife and other children have their own lives and means. Clara deserves peace. When the recording ended, the lawyer exhaled slowly. "Well," he said, "that settles that." A wave of emotion crashed over me. Relief, grief, disbelief. But under all that, a spark of something else. Vengeance. Because I knew my family would never accept this quietly. 2 days later, the next hearing came. The courtroom felt colder this time, like the walls themselves knew what was coming. Mom sat in front, her pearl earrings catching the light. Ava was whispering to her lawyer. Ben looked nervous, fidgeting with his tie. When it was my turn, I stood and handed the judge the USB drive. "This," I said, my voice firm, "is a recording of my father's final statement, confirming his mental clarity and intentions. It was sealed and addressed to his attorney before his passing." The judge raised an eyebrow and played it aloud. As my father's voice filled the room, I turned and looked directly at my mother. Her face turned white. Ava's jaw tightened. Ben's eyes went wide. The judge listened carefully, then paused the recording. "This seems quite conclusive," he said slowly. "Do the plaintiffs wish to respond?" Ava stood trying to recover her composure. That could be doctored. Anyone could have recorded that." The judge gave her a sharp look. "Do you have proof of tampering?" She froze. "No, Your Honor." "Then unless new evidence arises, I see no reason to dispute the will's validity." The gavel hit the desk. Case dismissed. I walked out of that courtroom feeling lighter than I had in years. But as I stepped outside, Ava caught up to me. Her smile was gone, her face cold and tight. "You think you've won?" she hissed. "You've just made enemies out of your own blood." I looked her dead in the eye. "No, Ava. You did that when you erased me from the photo." She flinched. And for the first time in my life, she didn't have a comeback. That night, I sat by my window, staring at the old family portrait one last time, and for the first time, I didn't feel left out. Because I realized something powerful. You can take someone out of a picture. You can try to silence their name. But you can't erase the truth. And my father had made sure of that. Still, deep down, I had a feeling my family wasn't done with me yet. Because when you take everything from people who think they deserve it, they don't just walk away. They plot. And I could feel it coming. For a few weeks, things were quiet. Too quiet. The court had ruled in my favor. My father's will was officially recognized. The house, the savings, the business shares, all mine. But the silence from my family wasn't peace. It was the kind of stillness before a storm. And deep down, I knew Ava wasn't done. It started small. Strange things that could have been coincidence. First, someone slashed my car tire in the middle of the night. The next morning, I found a note tucked under the windshield. "You don't deserve what isn't yours." No signature. Then, 2 days later, my workplace received an anonymous email claiming I'd been mentally unstable and manipulating my dying father for money. The HR department called me in for a wellness check. I had to sit there, keeping my voice steady as I told them my personal life was being weaponized by my own family. And the whole time, all I could think was, this had Ava written all over it. She was careful, calculated. The type who smiled sweetly while setting the world on fire behind your back. I decided to pay her a visit. She lived in a pristine suburban house with a white fence and a perfect garden, like her life was an ad for domestic bliss. When she opened the door, her expression was ice. "Clara, what do you want?" I held up the HR letter. "You wouldn't happen to know anything about this, would you?" She raised an eyebrow. "Why would I waste my time on you?" "Because I said, stepping closer. You don't like losing. Her lips curved slightly, a smirk that didn't reach her eyes. You think you've won? You think that will make you better than us? No, I said softly. It makes me free. She laughed, that low, condescending laugh that used to make me shrink when we were kids. Free? You'll never be free, Clara. You're still that pathetic middle child begging for attention. Dad didn't leave you the money out of love. He did it out of pity. Her words sliced through me. But I didn't flinch. Because for the first time, I saw her for what she really was. Not the golden child, not the perfect daughter. Just a scared woman whose reflection was cracking. I leaned in. You can keep lying to yourself, Ava. But Dad saw you too. That's why you're not in his will. For a second, her face twisted, raw anger flashing beneath the polish. Then she slammed the door in my face. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every creak of the house made my chest tighten. Then, at 2:13 a.m., my phone buzzed. An unknown number. A text message. You took everything from us. Time to pay it back. I froze. A second later, another message came through. This time it was a photo of my father's grave, fresh flowers, and a knife stuck into the dirt beside his headstone. The next morning, I went straight to the police. They filed a report but told me, unless there's proof of a direct threat or trespassing, there's not much we can do. Proof. That word stuck in my head. If they wouldn't protect me, I'd protect myself. So I bought security cameras and installed them all around my property, front yard, backyard, and porch. A few nights later, they caught something. At 3:02 a.m., a figure appeared at the edge of my driveway. They were wearing a hoodie, moving carefully, like they didn't want to trigger the motion lights. Then they crouched near my mailbox and slipped something inside before vanishing into the darkness. My stomach churned as I played the footage back. It was blurry, but I recognized the walk, the way the person moved, precise and quick. It was Ben. I grabbed a flashlight and ran to the mailbox. Inside was an envelope with my name written in red ink. I opened it slowly. Inside was a torn photograph, the same family portrait they'd erased me from. Except this time, someone had crossed out everyone else's faces with thick black marker, and scrawled underneath, in jagged handwriting, were the words, "You wanted to be the only one left. Now you will be." My knees went weak. I stumbled back onto the porch, my hands trembling so hard I nearly dropped the letter. The next day, I confronted Ben. He was at a local bar, nursing a beer like the world owed him one. When he saw me, he groaned. "What now?" I slammed the envelope on the table. "You think this is funny?" He glanced at it, then shrugged. "I don't know what that is." "Don't lie to me, Ben, I saw the footage. You came to my house last night." He froze, his eyes narrowing. "You have cameras?" "Yes," I said, voice shaking. "And I'll go to the police again if you or Ava come near me." He laughed bitterly. "You think the cops care? You think Dad's stupid will makes you untouchable? You ruined everything, Clara. Mom's losing the house. Ava's losing her mind. And me? I've got nothing left because of you." He leaned closer, his breath hot with whiskey. "You're not the victim anymore, sis. You're the villain." I didn't respond. I just turned and walked away. Because if I stayed 1 second longer, I wasn't sure I'd recognize myself anymore. That night, I called the lawyer again. He sounded worried. "Clara," he said, "your father's estate transfer is almost finalized. But there's something you should know. Your mother requested a meeting with me privately next week. She said she has new information." My heart dropped. "About what?" She wouldn't say. Something told me whatever she was planning. It wasn't just about money anymore. It was personal. When I hung up, I stared out the window at the dark street below. My family had erased me from their photo. Then they tried to erase my sanity. Now they were coming for my peace. But they didn't realize something. They'd already taken everything they could. And now, I had nothing left to lose, which made me dangerous. The week before Mom's mysterious meeting with my father's lawyer felt like walking on broken glass. Every day, I woke up with this knot in my stomach, that sense that something was coming, something sharp and irreversible. I didn't know if it would be another threat, another lie, or something worse. All I knew was that my family wasn't finished with me, and they weren't fighting for money anymore. They were fighting for control. I spent those days watching the security footage every night, making sure no one had come near the house again. For a while, it was quiet. No more strange notes, no more shadowy figures. Until one night, I saw a car pull up across the street. It was Mom's. She sat there for nearly 10 minutes, headlights off, engine running. She didn't come to the door, didn't knock, just watched the house. Then she drove away. The next morning, I found a single white rose on my doorstep. It wasn't a gift. It was a message. When the day of the lawyer's meeting finally came, I couldn't focus on anything. At 4:30 that afternoon, he called me. "Clara, your mother's been here for almost an hour," he said quietly. "She's emotional, and she's brought something with her." "What kind of something?" "A safe deposit box. She claims it contains a document that changes everything." My blood went cold. "I'm on my way," I said, grabbing my keys. When I arrived at the office, Mom was sitting in the conference room, her face pale but composed. In front of her sat a small steel box. She looked up when I walked in, and for a second, I saw a flicker of guilt in her eyes. "Clara," she said softly, "you shouldn't be here." "Clearly," I replied, "but I am. So go ahead. Show me what you brought." She hesitated, then unlocked the box. Inside was an envelope, yellowed with age, marked with my father's initials. My breath caught. "This was found in the attic last week," she said. "It's his first will, dated 2 years before he died." I stared at her. "So?" "So," she continued, her voice trembling, "in this version, everything was supposed to go to me, not you." The lawyer reached for the envelope carefully, scanning the signature. "It's authentic," he said. "But this predates the final will. It's legally irrelevant." Mom's hands clenched. He changed his mind because she manipulated him. I felt the sting of that accusation like a slap. "Manipulated him? I took care of him, Mom. I was the only one who did." She shook her head, tears spilling down her cheeks. "You think I didn't love him? You think I didn't see how he looked at you? Like you were his savior and I was just in the way?" Her voice cracked. "You turned him against me." I froze. For a second, I wasn't angry, just stunned. Because in all these months of fighting, all the lies and cruelty, I'd never realized what was really driving her. It wasn't greed. It was jealousy. "Mom," I whispered, "Dad didn't choose me over you. He just saw the truth. You were trying to hold on to him in your way, and I was trying to let him go in mine." But she wasn't listening anymore. Her hands were shaking. She slammed the box shut and stood up. "You've taken everything from this family, Clara. Don't act innocent." She turned to the lawyer. "You'll hear from me again." And with that, she walked out, her perfume lingering in the air like a ghost. After she left, the lawyer sighed. "Clara, she's not well. I think she's desperate to rewrite the past. I'll keep this document on file, but it doesn't change anything." I nodded numbly. But as I walked out of his office, I couldn't shake the image of her trembling hands, her eyes full of something that looked too much like regret. Because for the first time, I realized she didn't just hate me. She was haunted by me. That night, I got another text. "Meet me at Dad's grave. Midnight. Come alone. Mom." I stared at the message for a long time. Every rational bone in my body told me not to go. But some stubborn part of me, the part that still wanted closure, Still wanted to believe there was a piece of love left between us. Couldn't ignore it. So at 11:50 p.m., I drove to the cemetery. The air was thick with fog. The moon hung low, silver and cold. As I walked toward Dad's headstone, I saw her silhouette, standing perfectly still beside it. "Mom," I called softly. She didn't move. When I got closer, I saw she was holding something, a small photo frame. It was the family portrait. A small photo frame. It was the family portrait. Only this time, she'd taped my face back in. "I fixed it," she whispered. "See? You're in it again." I didn't know what to say. My throat tightened. "Mom, why?" Tears filled her eyes. "Because I thought if I erased you, I could erase what I felt, the guilt, the truth. But I can't." She turned the photo toward. Then I noticed the glass was cracked. And through the cracks, I could see the faint outline of something else behind the picture. A folded letter. "Dad's handwriting," I whispered. She nodded slowly. "I found it tonight. It's addressed to me." Her voice broke. "He forgave me, Clara. He said he wished he'd told me sooner how much you did for him. He was proud of you." Tears burned my eyes. "He wanted you to know that too." We stood there in silence, two broken people in the glow of the moon, holding a photo that had once erased me. And for a brief, fragile moment, I thought maybe things could heal. But that peace didn't last, because as I helped her back to her car, I saw headlights in the distance, a car pulling up fast, tires crunching over gravel. Ava's SUV. She stepped out, slamming the door, her face red with fury. "What are you doing here?" she shouted. Mom flinched. "Ava, please, calm down." "No," Ava screamed. "You told me you were done with her, that we'd fix this, and now you're just, what? Making up at a graveyard?" She turned to me, her voice shaking. "You ruin everything you touch, Clara." I stepped forward, heart pounding. "Ava, stop." But she wasn't listening. She grabbed the photo frame from Mom's hands and hurled it to the ground, the glass shattering. "Nothing's fixed," she screamed. And in that instant, I knew this wasn't over, not even close. The sound of shattering glass echoed through the cemetery, sharp and final. The photo frame lay in pieces between us, fragments glinting in the moonlight like tiny shards of truth that had cut too deep for too long. Ava stood there breathing hard, her hands trembling, her eyes wild. Mom was crying, not the quiet, elegant tears she used to shed when things didn't go her way, but deep, broken sobs. And I just stood frozen, every muscle tight, every thought screaming, "This is how it ends." "Ava," I said softly, "just stop, please." She turned on me, voice shaking. "You don't get to tell me what to do. You've taken everything. Dad's money, Mom's love, even our memories." Her words hit me like blows, one after another. But I didn't fight back this time. Because beneath her rage, I finally saw what it really was. Pain. "I didn't take anything," I whispered. "I just stopped letting you take from me." Ava stepped closer, her face twisting. "You always think you're the victim." "No," I interrupted. "Not anymore." For a moment, there was silence. The wind cut through the trees, carrying with it the faint smell of wet soil and grief. Then Mom whispered, "Ava, please, let it go." But Ava just stared at me, and in her eyes, I saw something unrecognizable. Hate, pure and raw. When she lunged, it didn't feel real at first. She shoved me, hard, and I stumbled backward, my heel catching on a root. I fell to the ground, my palms scraping against gravel. Mom screamed, "Ava, stop!" But she was beyond reason. She grabbed me by the arm, shaking me. "You don't deserve him," she cried. "You don't deserve any of it." I pushed her back, more out of instinct than anger, and she slipped. Her foot hit the shattered glass, and she went down, hard. For a moment, everything froze. Then I saw blood. Mom fell to her knees beside her, sobbing. "Ava, Baby! Oh my God, Ava! I scrambled forward, heart pounding so loud it drowned out everything else. She wasn't dead, but a long, deep cut ran across her arm, crimson soaking her sleeve. I tore off my scarf and pressed it against the wound, whispering, "It's okay. It's okay." Ava stared up at me through tears, her anger dissolving into something smaller. Why couldn't you just let it go?" she whispered. I swallowed hard. Because Dad didn't want me to. She turned her head away, her voice breaking. "He always loved you more." I almost said, "That's not true." But I couldn't lie. Not now. So instead I said, "He loved us both. Just differently." The ambulance came 15 minutes later. Mom went with Ava. I stayed behind, kneeling in front of Dad's grave, the shards of the photo glinting between us. In the chaos, I realized something. The letter that had been hidden behind the photo was still there, folded and stained with blood. I picked it up carefully and opened it. It was short. Just a few lines in my father's handwriting. "If you're reading this, it means you've all gone too far. I hoped my love would bring you together, but maybe the truth will. Clara, forgive them. They act out of fear. And remember, family is not who stays in the picture. It's who stays when everything else falls apart." Tears blurred my vision. I clutched the letter to my chest and finally let myself cry. For all of it. The anger, the love, the years lost trying to belong to people who never saw me. And for the first time, I didn't feel erased. I felt free. A month later, the dust settled. Ava recovered. Ben moved away. Rumor had it he'd gone to live with a friend in another state. Mom? Well, she called once, just once. She didn't apologize. But she said, "I hope you're happy, Clara." And for the first time in my life, I could honestly say, I am. I moved back into my father's house, not as a symbol of victory, but of peace. The first thing I did was hang the family photo on the wall. Not the new one. The old one. The real one. The one with me still in it. I didn't fix the cracks in the glass. I left them there, reminders that some things are meant to break before they can be whole again. On the day I finished unpacking, I sat in Dad's old chair on the porch, the one that used to creak when he rocked in it. The sun was setting, painting the sky in warm gold. And for the first time, I didn't feel invisible. Because even though the rest of the family had fallen apart, I still carried a part of them. The lessons, the pain, the love that refused to die quietly. My father's words echoed in my mind one last time. "They can erase you from a picture, Clara, but not from what's rightfully yours." And he was right. They erased me from a photo, but not from the truth. They took everything they could, but not who I am. And in the end, I didn't just inherit his house. I inherited his strength. So this is my story, not about revenge or money, but about finding yourself in the spaces where others tried to erase you. Because sometimes being left out of the picture is the only way to finally see it clearly. End.